welcome to my garden here in Derbyshire, and today I'll be making a cake stand. What we have here is the piece that's going to be the top of the cake stand. It's a piece of wood that I got donated. I'm not entirely sure what the species is, but it's quite hard, and you can see I've got my unpopular with some of you set up here to get around the problem of the fact that this is a higher diameter than my normal setup would allow. So I'm going to put my rest in here. I'm going to turn a face off on here and then start to form the bottom of the cake stand itself. And again, you'll see as we go on. Okay, now I've got the bottom fairly flat, just for reference. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my angle grinder now, just to make it round, take these corners off, and I'm using this, in effect, a circular saw blade in the angle grinder. Very vicious thing, and again, a lot of people dislike it, but it is in my angle grinder that's got the safety trigger on it, so it shouldn't be too bad. I get that going backwards slowly. Obviously the blade's going to rotate forwards, and I'll just cut these corners off. Now you can see that I've got it fairly round. There's still a little bit of a flat there, but I can live with that, that'll sand out. And remember, this is the bottom. This is going to have the foot turned into it to take the rest of the pedestal. So it's going to be a cake stand on a pedestal. So I've now got to turn this down and turn some skirts and the kind of things you've seen me done before into here, and then put a dovetail that I can use here to grip, to turn the whole thing over and then turn a nice flat face on the top. That'll then become the top part of the cake stand. Then I've got to make the base, which we'll see later on. So a bit more smoothing out here just to give myself a nice flat edge. Then I can get the speed up, and hopefully this mark here won't develop too much into a crack. It is where the heartwood is, but we'll see. Remember, this is the underside here, and so what I need to do now is cut this back to give me a pedestal in the centre, which I'm going to carve some features into. But also don't go too far back, because on this inside of this I've actually got the depression that the jaws have got hold of in order to hold this piece. So I'm going to lose a little bit off the top of this when I flatten it off. So I'll get on with taking this back down and again working on the foot. This stuff is very hard. It's coming off in small shavings, but mostly it's this fine dust. Even though this is actually quite a sharp tool, you can see that it's doing a little bit of tear out, but when I get closer to the surface that I need, I'll bring the speed up even higher and plane the surface off using the wing of this at a very low angle, just taking a very fine cut off. You'll see me do that later. So I've done a bit more now, taken this down. I've got to do a bit more just to finish the shape of the bottom of this, and then I'll start working on the pedestal part of it here. There's going to be an extra piece that goes on the bottom here, so I need to make a foot so I can turn it around and finish the top, and I need to make some decoration on this area here. So I'll get on with that. A little bit further on now, you can see I've taken it down a bit more, and I'm going to do a bit more on that now, just to sort of bring it round and start work on this detailed piece here. Curve the edge out the other way. There we are now. Starting to get the shape that I want. I finished cleaning this up, did a planing cut across there, and you can see it's come up really nice. I've just sanded that a little bit with some 320 grit, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark in the centre the size of the hole I need for the jaws. You can see I made a mark, worked my way up and got it equalised, and there's the hole I need. So I'll cut that out next. So this is going to have to be quite a deep cut, because I want to then take this part and turn it into a skirt, make it quite thin, but with that same profile. So this is going to be a stepped lip inside it. So I need to just gouge some of that out. So just let me set up here, just slightly below centre, make sure I'm clear. And there we go. So I'm just going to use a small tool because it's more accurate. I'll remove a lot of the material from the centre using the bowl gouge, but I can just do quickly like this, but I'll get rid of most of it with the bowl gouge later. with that I'm going to have to change my lighting a little bit so I can see into here. And there we are. So that hole now will act as the chucking point now, and I need to now make the skirt on top of that. Having looked at this and the diameter I need this to be at to get a grip of it before I can do anything on the other side, I've decided to do it in a slightly different way. I'm going to turn this over now and turn a bigger foot on the back that I can grip with my larger jaws, and then I can turn it back and finish this how I want it to be finished. So I'll get on with that. So I've flipped it over now and trued it up again so the back edge is running true. I'm just going to true up the face and then leave a larger foot on here so I can turn it round and do some more work on the front. And the idea is that I'll be able to just sand that foot off later on. Now you can see that I've got to the point where I'm about to start forming the frills on the bottom of the cake stand top. So I'm using a high-speed tool with a tiny little circular saw, very thin, and I'm cutting little cuts in here to mark out one edge of that frill. In a little while I'll turn this round and I'll cut the other side. So I'll get on with that. And there we are, the basic outline, and now I've just got to do some filing on here with a diamond file. So there we are, a little bit more refining to do on there, a little bit more sanding, and I can start doing the pattern with the holes. So now I've finished carving the actual outside shape of those. I'll probably do a little bit more sanding as I just generally clean up. And I now need to mark the inside of these with the start of the pattern that I'm going to use. And you can see I've already done a couple, and I'm just locking it on the indexing tool there. And I'm using this brad point bit. Now it's quite a big bit for doing this, but what I'm doing is I'm gently just letting that wear away at the surface to give me this pattern. I don't want to drill through. So on my mark here I can see where I want to be, and I just gently go in . No pressure. and there you can see I've now got the bullseye that I wanted. I'm going to drill a hole through the middle of that later on and do some more fine hole work around the outside to make it look like lace, but that's the main part of the pattern there, and I'll work my way around doing that. Got to be very careful because some parts of this wood, the grain is softer than in other parts, so as you're going across it, it's quite soft, but as you're going along it, it's quite hard. So you've got to be very careful about how much pressure you put on it. And there we are, the start of the pattern. Now you can see I've actually finished this. I've drilled all the holes I'm going to, and I've done the markings on it, polished it up to about 1500 grit. There's no finish on here, there's no wax on here, this is actually just wood, and it's got a nice sheen on it already. So when I put some finish on and then repolish it, it'll come up really nice. So that's the top pretty much finished. I've just got to sand this foot off and then make the rest of it as flat as it is here, and then take all that away, and hopefully it'll be as nice as the rest of it. Just spin it around there for you. So this is the foot I've got to take off. Here we have the blank that I'm going to cut the base out of for the it's going to form the pedestal and the ball for the bottom part of the cake stand. It's got quite a bit of speltering going on here, but it's cherry. It's quite hard in the centre here, and there's a few splits, but a lot of that's going to come out, and any splits that do remain I'll just fill with black resin and polish up. And again, this is going to be the top. This is where the ball is here, and the top of the cake stand is going to go on this end, and down here I'm going to form the foot. So I've got it mounted this way around so I can actually create the ball and hollow it out. So that's what I'll do next. I'm getting a bit of vibration here as I'm cutting this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the tailstock up, and I'm going to support that a little bit. Just to take some of that vibration out. Just lock everything up tight. Excuse the noise, I've got the extractor going because I'm doing some sanding. I've got some very coarse 80 grit because this is quite speltered. I want to do the final shaping down to the surface I want with this, and then it won't spore out, it won't tear out the surface. So I'm just doing the sanding with this. You've seen me do something similar before with that very badly speltered silver birch. Well, this is cherry, so it's a bit harder, and I've got to go a bit more even with the sanding, because again, if I go too hard, I'm hardly pressing there. If I go a bit too hard, I can dig away the soft stuff and leave the hard stuff behind, and this will go out of true. So I turn it down using conventional tools, and I'm just finishing the surface, going down to that surface with the sander, or the sanding paper. Stop it at that. You'll see that I've still got all scratch marks on this really heavy paper, but this spelted bit, you can see I've only got a couple little bits. Since I'm going to do a lot of holes in this, I can choose to put holes where those marks are and take them out, so you won't see them in the end. Now you can see that I've created the round ball that I want for the base of the cake stand, and the foot that's going to get cut off obviously. So now what I need to do is hollow out through here and hollow this sphere and leave this in place so that it connects to the top of the cake stand. So that's what I'm going to do next. Because I'm turning such a long way from the chucking point, I'm going to get some vibration. To be expected, I've just got to go gentle. So I'm just gradually working my way in, and I'll get back to you once I've got a bit further. Now you can see I've moved on a stage. I've drilled quite a lot of holes in this. I may do some more holes. These are down to 2mm. I might put a lot of 1mm holes in it to make it really look porous. I've taken that base that I had in the chuck off, and I've done some hollowing out in this from this end, and I'm going to complete the hollowing out from this end and really get it thin, and then I'm going to turn a base for here. So we'll do that now. I'm now going to use this little tool that I made. It's just got a sharp edge on this inner face. It's rounded, and I can then run that inside the job and smooth out and work my way around the edge and kind of meet up in the middle where I was before. Whenever you do a big cut, you need to stop and check just to see where you are on the size of this thing, and it's getting quite close to meeting up where I cut out to before. So I'll get down to that, and then I'll start to smooth out and make the inside turn out and make it thinner. You may have seen some of my earlier videos where I'm turning some of these hollow forms and pomandos, and this is a bit of a luxury because this is quite a large hole I'm turning here, because this is going to sit on a base. So really all I need is access really to turn this nice and smooth on the inside and then be able to sand it. So it's a bit of a luxury to be able to work on this. Just use my bowl gouge now in a scraping mode just to clean up the inside. Try the old trick where we get the light underneath. So just back that off a little bit so it's not quite touching. Turn the main light off and see what I can see when I spin it up. And it's not that easy to see with all the debris in the holes, but I'm now getting much thinner than I was before, and I'm getting about as thin as I want to be here. Could do with a little bit more off in this area and some more off in this area, so I'll steer clear of this area now and just work on these bits. Now we can see that I've worked the inside as thin as I want to go. You see it's just a couple of mil thick here in the middle, and I've sanded the outside to 320 grit. And I'm just going to go up through some more grits now just to get a bit of a polish on it, starting at 400, and then I'm going to put some teak oil on it just to bring it up. And a nice shine starts to come up on it, and then just put the finishing touches on that. Again, all I'm doing here is polishing. And then finally this foam pad, which is actually at 3000, just to clean it up. So I'm just going to put some teak oil on this now. Make sure I get plenty on because I want it to soak down the holes and also soak the sides of those holes. And just ball it up. Get the end of it wet with tea coil. Really damp, and get it inside. Let that dry. Probably put the 1200, 1500 and 3000 on it again, just to take it down, and then it's done. And that's the ball part of the cake stand done. Just the base now. Here we can see where I've got on the ball now. Again, I was going to have the base all as one piece of wood, but it did have the centre of the tree, it did have the actual pith of the tree in it, and I left it for a few days and it's split. So I've turned that away and left myself with a little joint I can make there. And so this is actually still going to fit inside the base here and give me a nice white background in the top here to the dark wood. And now what I need to do is turn a base, and I've got this piece of laburnum which I've just cut off the end of a log to make the base out of. And so I'm going to make a hole in the end here so I can put it on my chuck and then turn a base out of it, and I'll show you doing that. So here I am set up with my bench clamp now. Clamp this down. I'm going to go somewhere in the centre here where the pith is. My aim is to try and leave a white ring around the outside of the dark centre on the base, so I actually try and retain this white outer wood here before it gets to the pith. The pith is going to go, but I'm going to try and retain that outer white wood. So I'll need to find a centre about here. So that's my centre that I'm going to be aiming at. And again, I've got my 48mm Forstner bit which matches the jaw size of my chuck, and I'm just going to place that in that approximate position for the centre. Of course it wanders about because the very centre is pith, and I am going to turn that away. And what I'm looking for when I'm doing that is I'm looking to get the surfaces here flat. So I know I've got a flat base to the bottom of the hole, and it's a bit deeper that side than this side, so I just need to tilt this back a little bit and cut this edge nearest me. So here it is on the lathe now. Just get it tight, spin it up just to see where we are. And like every time you use a log end, it's always eccentric. I've tried to cut the two faces as parallel to each other as possible, and it's a little bit eccentric, so I'm going to turn that face off first and then start making the base. Just got a nice sharp bull gouge here. I'm just going to run the wing of it across just to flatten the end off. Here now that I've got the dust extractor going here, and it works through this slot I've got in the base of my lathe. Laburnum, which is what this is, isn't very nice stuff to breathe the dust off, so I'll try to keep the dust down while I'm using it. Just got to turn this round now, trying to leave as much of this white as I can. A little bit more round, I can speed the lathe up quite a bit. Not really worried about this stuff up here, and I'm going to obviously cut in to make the base. So just starting to smooth out nicely now. And you can see you get this nice kind of breakout of the grain. So here's the base that's going to fit into this. So this is the top of this ball, this is the bottom, and the base that I'm going to turn now is going to fit into this. So this is actually going to be oriented this way around, with this as a flat base here, going up into this. So I need to leave a slot in the top of this to go around that. This is actually going to plug into the base. So now I've curved this down as much as I want to. I'm going to sand that later. But now what I need to do is reverse this so I can get at the face of that to make the slot for the ball. And to do that I need to mark up a little indent to take my jaws of my chuck. So just make a mark just first of all to see where I'm at. Then I can get equidistant inside that. That's the point that I want to turn the slot into. So I'll get a square cutting tool now, sort my light out. I just need to make a small indent here. Turn the speed up a bit. At this point I'm now going to turn back to the square chisel and just cut a nice square edge there to get so the jaws of the chuck can get a grip. And I need to finish this now because this is going to get turned round, and this is my opportunity now to get a nice finish on here. I'm going to slightly indent this because I don't want it resting on some point around here, random point. I actually want to curve it slightly so it's slightly concave so it rests on the outer rim. Small tool, just make some marks in here. And now I'll sand this up and clean it up, and then I'll be ready to turn it round. So now I've shaped it how I want and done a bit of sanding on it. This is going to be the bead that the recess is going to be in to take the ball. So I just need to part off now, and you can see where I've marked it. I'm just going to go through now and just part this off. Okay, so now, since it came apart, came off the lathe, I was holding it anyway, I'll just cut this little pip off by hand. Now I've reversed it, I've just got to make the hole in the end here to take the base of this ball, and to give some kind of nice finish on here. So again, I'm just going to turn to my gouge and just take out the majority of this, and then go to my smaller chisel, a smaller square chisel, just to give myself a nice square recess. Now again, I just need to be fairly precise with this, so I'm going to just measure the depth of that recess that I want, and then I'm going to check that I've got that against the base of this. So what I do is I use a ruler just to give me a straight edge there, just put that on there, line it up with the base of there, and I can see that I'm deep enough now so I'll clear that joint. So now I've just got to use a smaller gouge, just clean up a little bit. More sanding on here now, just to take off some of the edges and make it smooth and tactile. Again, there's no point in sanding the inside of here because it's going to be inside that, and you can see that's quite a nice fit, not a bad effect either, got a nice little bead there. So there we go. So here's the finished piece. We can see that I've glued it all together now. Put the laburnum base onto the cherry, onto this hardwood here, and so there's the cake stand. Just needs a little bit of polishing on there, and there's the finished item. Hope you enjoyed the video, and do leave a comment.